Kevin McCarthy is another one, not backing away from his criticism of Republican Conference Chair Liz Cheney. That stemmed from this exchange on Wednesday.
Do you believe President Trump should be speaking, or former President Trump should be speaking at CPAC this weekend?
Yes, he should.
Congresswoman Cheney?
That's up to CPAC. I've been clear in my views about President Trump and the extent to which following January 6th, I don't believe that he should be playing a role in the future of the party or the country.
On that high note, thank you all very much.
So that walkaway, that moment is from Wednesday. Yesterday, McCarthy was asked about it. He initially launched into a more broad commentary about cancel culture before tying that back to Congresswoman Cheney.
Look, I don't believe in cancel culture, whether it be a Republican or a Democrat. The idea that a Republican would join with a cancel culture, I just think is wrong. It's beyond just having a difference of opinion.
So, Joe, the suggestion there is that Liz Cheney is engaged in cancel culture for speaking out against President Trump, perpetuating a lie that drove people to attack the Capitol on January the 6th. I will point out, as they're talking about CPAC there, today, this morning, sometime before noon, Senator Ted Cruz will be addressing CPAC on the subject of cancel culture, perhaps referencing the fact that he was criticized for going to Cancun while his state was in the middle of a crisis.
I mean, do they get paid money every time they say those words, cancel culture? Because it's really, I mean, how stupid can you be? They're blaming everything on, quote, cancel culture, even when it doesn't apply. If somebody trips over their shoelaces and falls down, they're going to blame it on cancel culture. Here, you have Kevin McCarthy accusing Liz Cheney of cancel culture but I don't really understand when it was Kevin McCarthy who was on the phone screaming at Donald Trump when he feared for his life. It was Kevin McCarthy begging the terrorists that Donald Trump call down the terrorists and stop the terrorists from attacking. And Donald Trump refused to do it. And when Kevin got angry, Donald Trump said, well, I guess those attackers, I guess they're more upset about the election than you are, Kevin. And McCarthy goes to the floor attacking Donald Trump. And then, like Lindsey Graham, Gene Robinson gets scared of his own shadow. And flies down to Mar-a-Lago and takes pictures with Donald Trump. It's just like Nikki Haley. She dares to tell the truth about him for about 3 seconds, and now she's going to try to get back in with Donald Trump because he's refusing to meet with her in Mar-a-Lago. It's extraordinary that these people want to meet with a man. Let's keep that picture up. Donald Trump, in case you haven't been watching lately, the guy on the left led an insurrection against the United States Capitol, where his own vice president was being shouted at with chants of "hang Mike Pence." And when Donald Trump, the guy on the left, knew that Mike Pence's life was in danger, knew that Mike Pence's wife's life was in danger, knew that Mike Pence's family's life was in danger, what did he do? Did he call off his terrorists? No. He tweeted attacking Mike Pence to try to stir the crowd up even more. Senator Ben Sasse said he got reports from inside the White House, inside the Oval Office, that Donald Trump was gleefully looking at terrorists abusing police officers with American flags. So my question really is, how sick does a political party have to be? How gutless and directionless does a politician have to be to actually want to be within 100 miles of that guy on the left, who Gene Robinson will forever be remembered as the only president ever to call for an insurrection against the United States of America, to try to stop a peaceful transition of power and to stop the constitutional process of counting electoral votes. Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.